You know, life has a way of surprising us. We've all had unexpected moments that really end up impacting who we are. I'm Chavie, and let me tell you, I've had my fair share of these moments. On Totally Unexpected, I don't just interview my guests. We have long, meaningful conversations to explore the twists and the turns that change their lives. You won't only be hearing from the guest, you'll be hearing from me and my thoughts and reflections, just as I would be doing in real life. These aren't traditional interviews, they're conversations about struggle, growth, and the moments that make us human. We all just want to feel connected. At least I do. And if we end up feeling a little less alone, that would make me so happy. Hey guys, welcome back to Totally Unexpected. I am currently sitting in a bathroom. We are on our family trip. We are currently in Vienna, Austria. We started off in Salzburg and we drove today almost 5 hours to get here. I just got the kids settled, so I'm trying to find a quiet place to record. There's no closets and there's not a lot of space, so I found this little tiny bathroom and here I am. So if the sound sounds a little funny, you'll know why. First of all, I'm on my phone with AirPods, or these are not called AirPods. What are they? The AirPod Max, the ones that go over your head. And we are improvising because I'm on the road, and a very exciting episode you're about to hear, and I could not miss it. So here we are at 8:45 at night. I'm recording. The episode that you're about to listen to is with none other than Dena Schusterman, a very good friend of mine. We've been friends for years. We talk about on the episode how we first connected, and I've been wanting to have Dena on the podcast since I started, but I knew she was coming out with a book, and I knew that I wanted her on when the book came out. So I had to have self-control and be patient and wait for the perfect right moment, and we're finally here. Her book is about to be launched into the world, so if you haven't ordered it yet, you should definitely pre-order. I really stand behind this book. You're going to love it. Writing a book is such a huge feat. You've heard me express this sentiment often because it is on my bucket list. It is a dream of mine. I'm not ready. It really is scary. It really takes so much work and so much discipline and so much vulnerability. I talk all the time about the podcast being very vulnerable because it's not like something that is outside of me. If you understand, it's like a piece, it feels like a piece of me. And a book, even more so. When you write, no matter what you're writing, it's a piece of you. But especially when you're writing a memoir, it's really a piece of you. And Dena has done such a brilliant job. She talks about her father's stories, her life being on Shluchos. And I think we have yet to experience a shlicha talking about their shlichus in real time and with such honesty. It is exceptional. It is admirable. I think more people will feel safe to do it after, reading this book and experiencing what it feels like to be trusted. What Dena does is trusts her audience with the ability to handle information that is not sugar-coated, that is done beautifully and respectfully, but also not protecting. You don't feel protected reading this book. You feel like you are being trusted to hold all of it, not just the fluffy, fun, admirable parts, but all the parts. And I really relate to that. It's something that I view as my own personal kind of mission in this world, to be really pragmatic and honest and real And I think I wrote this on Instagram the other day that when you don't sugarcoat your life and you are facing it head on, that is what allows you to live a happy life. If we're constantly having to sugarcoat or pretend or glorify or smooth things over that feel messy, but we don't want anybody to know it's messy, that takes the joy out of life. But when we're able to like face the world head on, not sugarcoat our struggles, face them, accept them, that's how you live a happy life. So anyway, Dena is here and she gives us herself in all its just honesty and openness. I cannot wait for you to hear this episode. I'm 100% sure that after you listen, you're going to want to read her book if you haven't already. And I'm excited. So I really hope you enjoy. And I'll see you on the other side where we will discuss the prompt of this week. The prompt was if and when you've experienced religious anxiety and where did that show up for you? Really important topic. So stay tuned for that at the end of the podcast. And as always, new episode drops every other Monday. Substack drops every Tuesday. Like, review, comment, follow, all those things make a world of a difference. And I appreciate it. Love you guys.
If you want to sponsor, please reach out. I think it's not a secret that podcasts are funded through sponsorships and advertisements. There's no secret way to go about it. And I would love to partner with all of you and any of you. Please reach out. All my contact information is in the show notes. And we're very grateful to all our partnerships and all our sponsorships. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm so excited. This is a long time coming, and I cannot wait to have a really fun conversation. I saw on your social media today that your two youngest, are graduating.
Yes.
And I have an 8th grader who's graduating too today.
Oh, wow. Mazel tov.
Yeah. Zisi's graduating 8th grade, and it's a really big deal.
It's a really big deal. Yes.
Especially when it's your youngest.
Oh my gosh.
It's not my youngest, but I don't know.
It is a big deal. They're very, very cute this age. Their graduations are so fun. Yeah.
So I'm excited to see, because from what Zisi told me, basically with her class, she's in a really small, like rural school, which is very fun. And what they're like, each kid is speaking about another kid.
Oh, I love that.
And so, yeah, I'm excited to see how that goes.
That's very cute. My girls are in a class of like 22 or 23, and they were each offered to speak. So we might
Are they all speaking?
I'm done. All are speaking. And it was really cute to watch them evolve with this speech that they had to write by themselves. And Mommy, can you write it for me? No.
Yeah.
I'll help you edit it. And they gave them time during school, which was great because there's no ChatGPT during school time. And so it was good. They're great. I'm so excited.
So how does it feel to have your youngest graduating from 8th grade? I know you mentioned, okay, like carpool's done. And what does it feel like?
So everyone keeps saying, are you going to have an empty nest next year? Which they are going to go away to school. So
I was actually wondering that.
Yesterday, I sent my kids a text and I like pictures. I'm like, this one, I got her package today. This one, I got her mail today. And this one's, I got their mail today. I'm like, it doesn't feel much like an empty.
It doesn't feel correct.
Thank you, Hashem. It's just a movement in responsibility. You know, if I want to pick up my grandchild, if I want to help, it's the same school. I could go. I know the drill. But the the non-obligation is so freeing. And, there's all this discussion about empty nest in the world, and it comes from all the, the New York Times article is written, or this article, and it's from people who have 2 kids, 3 kids. And I just, living with a big family is a different, it's like
it's a different reality.
It's a different reality. Like when you're, I don't know, I've been doing carpool for like 28 years. There is not a moment of carpool that
you are going to miss.
I don't, because it, like, when you have something imprinted in you for 28 years, like it lives in me constantly. Like all the delicious, yummy joy memories, they're right here. They're in my heart. So I don't have to actively do carpool to feel that.
I love that perspective. And I think what you're so good at is embracing the reality that is right in front of you. I think a lot of times we have a hard time. There's nostalgia, there's hoping and wishing and ruminating over the past. And I love the way that you are like, I'm excited for this stage. Like, this is what we work, you said, this is what we work for. We work for our kids to grow up, our kids to be independent, to move through stages in life. And I take that to heart because it's something that I feel like I'm sometimes very good at. And other times I find myself a little bit comparing, in the sense of like, my youngest is turning 9. And most of my friends are still in like the thick of motherhood and babies and young kids. And I'm like, I'm young. I'm not ready to be in that stage yet. Like, I'm turning 42. My youngest is turning 9 in August. Like, to me, it feels incongruent. Like, I'm not ready to be in that stage where things are, a little less hands-on. Although my kids will always make sure that I'm hands-on.
Yeah, for you.
It's not happening yet. But I do find myself like sometimes like maybe feeling bad for myself, or like I want the baby still. Like, and on the other hand, I'm like, okay, do I really want a baby right now? Like, there's a lot to really appreciate about your family getting older and moving on to another stage.
Yeah. And listen, Chavie, it's not linear either for me.
For sure.
I remember when my first child got married and then was moving away, I felt so sad. And I felt like I kept saying it was like my red lollipop was taken away. Like, I had no reason to be sad, but it was like I wanted to sit and enjoy them. And they were going away for a few months. And I don't know, it was so fun to watch this young new couple.
Yeah.
So linear, but I do think that, I'm also a nostalgic person, but this is, I spend time thinking about these things. And I saw this meme or this quote, like, we're not an empty nest. We are launching these birds. So I love them. So it's great to launch these kids. They're hopefully, it's when you have a big family, there's ups and downs. People ask me what do people say? How's everything? I'm like, everything?
You want to know everything?
It's a very big question.
Oh, that's great. How's that? It's like, so it is such a like common question. Like, how's everything? I'm like,
everything. So, but even that awareness, that I could be like, that's a really big question you're asking me, instead of going into like depression or sadness that everything's not great. It's just, that's a really big question. And I have a really big life. Can I know? So I think the awareness is really, what I work towards.
Right. And I think the recognizing, like you said, like when your oldest was getting married and like
my first.
I mean, your first, sorry. I'm actually familiar with oldest and first being 2 different things. So I should have been more careful about that. But I think about this a lot lately of nothing's ever one thing, and it's layered. So even at the biggest joyous simcha, there's always these little feelings that need attention. You don't have to dwell on them, but you could notice them. Like, same thing with like my son just had a bar mitzvah, like huge, amazing simcha, like exceeded all my expectations, the joy, the energy, the love, the support that we felt was unmatched. And like, there was a lot of little things coming up for me, me and like with my son himself, like the stage that he's actually in, like we're celebrating a huge milestone and he's earned it and he's come so far. And also it's been, he's not a perfect human, right? And he's struggling in certain areas and he's giving me a run for my money. And I'm like, I'm trying to be proud. Like, can we just be proud? But it's not ever that simple.
Yeah. Well, I think it's when you're like a deep thinker and you're conscious, it's hard to be that simple because you're willing to be open to feeling feelings a lot.
To be recognized that there's a lot of things going on.
Right. And, maybe the differentiation is to recognize it within you as opposed to just biting at everyone because we know people who at simchas, they're not really present. So it's like you're kind of I guess you're explaining something that is actually presence because you're able to see it all.
Yes. And I knew, like, I worked with my therapist for a long time before the bar mitzvah, like knowing how I wanted to enter this simcha and like being very cognizant and like knowing what the pitfalls were going to be, how I wanted to handle them, and how I my biggest goal was to just be in it and be present. And he gave me this amazing little tip. They actually did it. He's like, because at some point during the celebration, and there was, the reading of the Torah, which was the day before, and then the big party. He's like, I want you to stand on a chair and just like look at what's happening. Just like observe and like watch and see and then absorb the we got here. You did this. And it's just this like every once in a while, this pausing of like absorbing like what's going on and intentionally taking it in.
I'm thinking about a chuppah now. When you stand with your child under the chuppah, it's really that. Like we have that built in.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't want to get distracted from this conversation. I just need to point this out because I'm like, I have the squirrel running. Whoa.
Yeah.
Like the green behind you is making your eyes look so green, and it looks so beautiful. That's all.
Thank you. My eyes it's actually really interesting. I always thought I had blue eyes, but my eyes lean way more towards green, but it does kind of change.
I'm seeing it with the plant and the, we can move right along, but
thank you.
It's distracting me if I can.
Okay. A good distraction, I hope. So it is true. I think in our customs, right, in our Yiddishkeit, like we do have these things built in. We just have to tap into them and not zoom right by them.
Right. The somatic experiences of our customs.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. So we kind of just jumped right in. We've been friends for a long time. I've been like itching to have you on the podcast. We saved it for a very particular time because you are coming out with a book. When podcast is being released, either the book will have just be released or it will be within a few days. So it's very timely. And I was like, this is a conversation's a long time coming. So we're obviously going to talk about the book, but I also hope to really focus on who you are as a person, and you'll take us on a little journey. And the book is obviously very much a part of that. I was thinking about this episode coming up and talking to you. I was kind of thinking, I'm like, when did we meet? Like, when did we become friends? And I don't know. Like, I don't know. I feel like I met you at the Kinnos one year and I, like, all of a sudden we're talking and we're friends, and you're more than a friend to me. You're actually a mentor. You're somebody that I look up to and respect and ask advice from. And so, but I'm like, oftentimes you can like go back and like, this is when we became friends. I was wondering if you remembered. You do. Okay, good. Because I'm like, you're just in my life so much. And I zero, like, when did this happen?
First of all, I spent the summer in your house when you were very little.
Okay. Yes. You were a counselor in San Antonio.
Yes. I lived upstairs.
Yes. Oh my God. Talk about nostalgia.
Okay. So that was like my first summer going away and just being a counselor, being dropped in the middle of San Antonio. Your father picked us up from the airport, or someone picked us up. Your father met anyway. So I spent the summer upstairs in the Chabad house.
Yes. So it's the counselors' rooms. That's what we called them.
Rooms. You guys had a situation. We had to move downstairs with you guys that summer. We took care of it a little bit. So, so we became like really close to you guys.
Yeah.
And so but you're much younger than me. So
So how old was I? Like 6?
9? I don't know, 8, 7. I don't know. So, and then we'll have to, I'm not doing the math.
Okay. We don't have to do the math if that's okay.
No, meaning it doesn't come to me easy. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I kind of saw you, heard about you, saw you sharing your story, read some stuff. And then we were both speaking in someone's house in Crown Heights, and you were at a kinnis, and you were speaking right before me. And you
coming back to me.
You had stopped like you came off the living room, and we were like at the closet. And I was like, Chavie, do you remember me? I was a counselor. And you were like, oh, yeah, sure. And, and then we were like, I gave you a hug and I follow you. I see your stuff. And then we that was like the icebreaker.
The connection.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm so glad that you remember that. I actually have concern about my memory. Like I don't remember things really well. So I'm glad that you brought that back for me. And I remember one year at the, so it was very like nothing big, we were just connected.
Right. I felt like a deep connection.
Yes.
Because you were a little child when I met you and I knew your family.
You knew my family.
Yeah.
That is like the best when I meet like counselors who come or teachers we've had over the years and they like know my family and as like I remember my family, like the young generation, like
pool in the back. Now it's probably much fancier, but it's
actually pretty similar. The pool stayed the same. That house doesn't exist anymore.
Okay, yeah.
And now there's like a big building in its place. And we used to live in the Chabad house, and we moved out when I was in seminary. So my childhood is in that house.
Yeah.
And that house is
yummy food for us, and really gave us like the lay of the land in her kitchen. We would just make our own breakfast, and it was fun.
Yeah, my mom is pretty great, and I look back now, and because we're doing we have in the similar job field, and the way that I think about the way she managed summer and camp in our private, like in our home. We used to call the pink bathroom, which was off the kitchen. Like kids were changing into their bathing suits in that bathroom.
Yeah. Oh, and the pool was right off your.
No, it was in our house, and
you were on that side. There was the kitchen and the eating area, and then the living room. The other living room was like where we did lineup.
We're literally, and then having counselors living in your house and feeding them, and I never felt from her. I'm just reflecting as a child that this was difficult or it was a burden. And as an adult, I'm like, I'm sure it had to be, like, how did she do that?
She was very low key, your mother.
Yeah. I did not get that from her. Okay. So there's our connection. And then I remember connecting with you over, I think you were talking about parenting and maybe ADHD and parenting and your evolution and your process. And I really connected and related. And I remember that being like also another connection point. And then it happened.
It happened.
Yeah. So all to say, long time coming. And you have written an incredible book, which I'm very lucky to have been able to read before it's actually released. And I have so many things to say about the book. But what I want to start with is I want you to tell us a little bit about your childhood. The book does take us through a lot of that, but just tell us briefly, Dena, as a kid, where did you start off, and some memories from that time?
Oh, okay. This is interesting. Not where I was expecting to go.
Okay.
But, talk about memory. My family very much holds like Dena remembers, Dena holds all the memories.
Yes, because it's very clear that you remember a lot.
Yes. And at the same time, like there could be things that are brought up that I was like, I would have never remembered that if someone would have brought that up to me, but then I remember it.
Right.
Or I don't remember, so memory is something that is I guess I heard someone say it like this, like my younger self walks very closely next to my older self. So it's easy for me to access. Although since I wrote the book, it doesn't live there anymore. And it's a little sad to me because I can't access the memories and feel them in the same way that I used to be able to feel them. Like
That's so interesting. So you almost put it, you made a place for them outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And now they're not right here anymore.
Yeah. And some of those memories, like some of my memories with the Rebbe, like I write in the book, I want to have that memory still inside of me, but it's almost like, I'm like, wow.
That is so fascinating. Was that, I'm sure that was very unexpected. Did you think that was going to happen?
No.
Yeah.
It was like, I guess I was holding on to them to be able to read them.
Yeah.
But I hope it cleared up more space inside of me.
Right. But and also now you're sharing. Now they're not just for you. Now they're,
right. So Dena, little Dena, me, Dena. First of all, I had a nickname when I was little. It was Din Din. And everybody knew me as Din Din. And I remember coming to Crown Heights, maybe 5 or 6, and I wasn't Din Din anymore because my sister Ahuva was Vava, and then she became Ahuva, but she was like stubborn about it. Like she would ignore everyone, put her nose at them if they dare call her by her nickname. And I think I just kind of like, well, if she doesn't have a nickname anymore, I guess I don't either. So then people, what did we come to Crown Heights? Once a year, twice a year, if maybe, and people never recognized me. And they didn't know my name. And it would be like, Dena? Like, so it was like this very much, in a sense, like always having to reintroduce myself. All like I had.
Who do you belong to? Where to place you?
So I would even like go up to my uncles and say, it's Dena. And my uncles are much older than me, granted.
Yeah.
Dena, oh, you've grown, like, so that's like a little, it like, where do and then I lived from 0 to 4 years old in Berkeley, California. Now, I did go back to Berkeley many times because we had our fellow shluchim there, the Langers, and I went back to spend summers with them. So I connected there, but I wasn't there anymore. So again, like if I went from 4 and I didn't come back till the summer, I was 6.5. People were like, oh, is it Din Din? Is it Dena? Oh, no, I'm Dena.
Right.
Okay. Then from 4 turning 5 to 8 to turning 9, my parents went on Shluchos in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And that's just like a parentheses in our life. And my brother, one of my siblings was born there. So we were 3 kids. And then my brother was born in New Mexico and I lived there. And recently there's been some stories that have come back to us from New Mexico, but it was really just a little like box of our life with zero connection ever again. I took my kids back to New Mexico on a road trip. It was, growing up in New Mexico, it's like growing up in where your kids
Montana.
Like, it is, you are one with nature. You are part of the fabric of like, of the world and the vast sky. And it does something to your brain and it trains you in a certain way. And this is the early 80s. We went skiing every single Sunday.
Yeah. Oh my God. It literally is my life with my kids.
My mother said that the reason she took us skiing every Sunday is because she said she didn't want to deal with birthday parties and kosher. And, my father started a school. So I was in the New Mexico Hebrew Academy and we had other shluchim that my parents brought down. One set of shluchim, they left, another set came. So I do have like friendships from there. I have a relationship still with somebody who, we rekindled it. We're both on a video together saying a pasuk with the Rebbe.
Oh, wow.
So we skied every Sunday. We went hiking. We went to, we didn't go hiking. My mother, I learned now she was scared of like snakes and things like that. So she didn't take us. So we would go to the places and look at nature. We never
didn't do the actual hike. Oh, that's great.
Drove a lot. We drove to places, stopped. My father would get out and all of us would get out. We'd eat lunch there. My parents always my father always packed lunch. It was always tuna with like purple cabbage in the bread. This is not in my book.
Yum.
Because so the bread wouldn't get soggy.
Does that prevent sogginess?
I guess so, because the purple cabbage is pretty thick.
Yeah.
So we would go out, picnic, say Pesukim wherever we stopped. It was like all the 12 Pesukim. We'd yell them through the echo canyons, into the valleys, into the sky. You know, we visited the Native American communities. And then when I was 8, turning 9, my parents left Shluchos and we moved to Los Angeles. It was the first time in my life that I lived in a frum community. And it was amazing. I like Moshiach came.
Yeah. I can't even imagine with me growing up on Shluchos my whole life. Like I went from growing up on Shluchos to living on Shluchos. So I've never experienced, besides like, okay, like going to school in Chicago, but like, it's a very, I don't know. I don't really, I guess it does count in a certain way, but I never really lived in a community, like a frum community. Yeah. And with infrastructure.
Right. Cool. I remember my mother had a baby within a year of us moving to LA, and they sent dinner for a week. We were losing our minds.
You're like, what do you mean people are sending dinner? Like even now I'm like, there's no such thing as that. Like no matter what, it's the buck stops here, you know?
I remember who sent them.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible. Incredible. So very kind of drastic change.
Yeah. I came home from the first day of Cheder.
Yeah.
The LA Cheder. And I was crying. I said, Ima, I don't want to go to this school. They have tights sheets. I don't know what tights sheets are. And that was taich, which means translation. Sheet, like mimeographed, you know, on the blue thing. And I mean, if people are listening, they don't know what I'm talking about. Like everything had a carbon paper.
Exactly. Like the tracing.
They put it on this machine and it would make copies. And it was Hebrew to Yiddish.
Like, where's the English?
Fine. Bara Elikim Hashemat Pashafen. And here I was, this Albuquerque kid, being thrown into Yiddish. And I was used to doing well in school.
Yeah.
I actually knew Ivrit, like in Albuquerque, Hebrew was very high.
Same. Yes.
So I knew Hebrew. So my mother went on this like tear, and she like started asking the teachers to ask the kids if they even know the storyline of the parsha that we were learning. Nobody knew anything that was flying. And for better or worse, there was no more Yiddish within that year of me being there.
Oh,
my mother said, this is mad. Like, what are we? This is not working for the kids. Nobody really like.
What's the point if you don't know what you're saying?
I was kind of the canary in the coal mine. I just was like,
but not even on purpose, because you're just like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah. So we went from Hebrew to English after that, and Yiddish was kind of dropped.
So you talk about this in your book, and this is something that I actually has stayed with me and spend a lot of time thinking about. And I don't even actually have any, just something I think about with no conclusion or no answers. But you write in the book that the reason why you left Albuquerque in the end was your sister had to go away to school, and it was very difficult. And your mother was like, that's where I draw the line. I'm not doing this. And it was accepted, right? It wasn't like she was the only, it was accepted that kids were going away from school if they were in these situations, if they were living in communities with no school. That's how I grew up, right? I also went away to school at 12 years old, 13 years old. So your mother said, that's it. I'm not doing this. And you left. So many things come up for me when I read that. So first of all, I'm like, on the one hand, I'm like, wow, like what a mom. Advocating, knowing where the limits were, knowing that she didn't want anyone raising her children. The other thing that comes up for me is like, what about the parents that do that? Does that make them less caring or invested in their child's growth? I find it like, how do you reconcile that? And I think at the end, right, everybody does what they need to do and what they're capable of doing. And they know that everyone knows their limits and their boundaries, but you also send your kids away, right? Mm-hmm. So does that narrative ever come up for you?
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I think it is kind of confronting for a lot of people, because it's like, well,
this is what we did, right? My mother sent me away with
Mesiras Nefesh. And
yeah.
So people have been sending away their kids. Do you know that there were kids who lived in America who went to Europe pre-World War II to yeshiva? And there were kids that got stuck in Europe.
Yeah.
So people have been sending their kids away to like the top-notch yeshivas for generations, not girls necessarily, because girls' schools
weren't going to school either.
So I think that it's not a judgment. My mother's own brother went from, Cincinnati to Brooklyn. There's a story in my husband's family where his grandfather, Shalom Shaya Deitch, was in Crown Heights one day, just happened to be there for business and sees his own son, who's in yeshiva there, walking the wrong way. And he's like, I'm not doing this anymore. We're moving to Crown Heights.
Right. He's like, I don't know what he's doing.
Saw him lost. So he's like, we're not doing this anymore. So that's So I think that it was a progression. I described that in my book. My parents had been on Shluchos in California. It was very magical and very difficult. And going to Albuquerque was already like such a step down for them, a disappointment. And
they didn't want to leave Berkeley. So it wasn't like,
Well, they chose to leave Berkeley, but it wasn't.
But not out of
not out
desire.
Exactly. It was the right thing to do also for them, which is also very courageous of my parents. So I think that Shluchos was very hard in Albuquerque. And, I wish I had this story clear in my head, but I know my father engaged with the Rebbe and then he stopped engaging with the Rebbe about this because he is regretful today. He didn't really want to hear, what.
Right. Sometimes we don't ask the questions we don't want the answers to,
Yeah, but they kind of let the Rebbe know, and the Rebbe was like, talk to me, literally like that. The Rebbe talked to me. And my father was not, he has kind of made up his mind and he was going. So, so that was that.
Was your father, when your mother said, that's it, this isn't happening, your father was right away, I agree, I'm on board? Or was there are you sure?
Look, my father told me years ago, I remember he said that Chabad can expect to raise 10% of whatever the local federation is raising, just in terms of dollars. And my father was running a day school at that point. And my father said the federation in Albuquerque raised $25,000 a year.
So not sustainable.
Yeah. So it didn't feel sustainable. It was difficult. It was very, very remote. And I don't think that, my mother never told us we're crazy for sending away our kids. I was I have my own journey in sending away my kids. I can't believe I'm sending away my kids again. I literally said to my husband the other night, I'm like, we know better. Why are we doing this?
Why are we doing this? Yeah.
And, my kids want to go. I can't, I also have to listen to what my kids want to do. I can't force them to stay here. There's a zeitgeist among girls their age that they do go away. There's a much more supportive system. My parents sent my sister away to Beis Yaakov. They didn't even send her to Chabad school.
Yeah.
Now, I went to that Beis Yaakov. I loved Beis Yaakov. But again, she was living in somebody else's home and she was breaking out in hives. And
it wasn't set up the way it is now. A little bit.
It wasn't a supportive community. And my mother was just it didn't feel, she just couldn't do it. And that's okay. I have no judgment. And she doesn't judge us, my mother. It doesn't come up in that way in conversation. I think 4 out of 5 of us are in Shluchos. My parents are very, very supportive. Their story you'll read is they left Shluchos, and their Shluchos story is either, a tragic, unfortunate story, or it's what was meant to be hashgacha pratis, that's just, Hashem guides the footsteps of man. And it's easy to feel like something is, like we started off saying, to feel regretful and everything. Or you could say
this is something that I think as humans we contend with, but this is a coping skill for me, just because how else do you survive really difficult things? I'm we are meant to be. This is my path. This is my journey. And it doesn't, we always say, okay, obviously it doesn't mean it's not hard, but there is a sense of relief or safety or comfort in knowing that there's a path and you are where you're meant to be.
Chavie, you say that like it's so simple, like it's your coping mechanism, which whatever. But do you know how privileged we are to even have this?
I say this all the time. I'm like, people who don't believe that, I don't know how you survive.
Right. So it's a privilege to even have this in your chest.
Wheelhouse. Yeah.
Of treasures and of things to pull out and tools. I mean, and it is based on Torah, and it is, we really don't choose where we live.
Yeah. So here you are, a 9-year-old, total culture shock and change. And you're loving it for the most part.
For every part.
For every part. You're just like, this is the way to live.
This is fabulous.
I love that perspective.
Like Friends, it was LA was like Moshiach.
Yeah. So how do you think, I mean, I'm jumping ahead and we'll come back, but how do you think you ended up on Shluchos?
Because we don't control where we live.
Okay, but like, was it something that you wanted to do?
No.
Okay. You're like, no, I like living where there's like-minded people.
Absolutely. I like my home that I was going to live in LA is still there. No, I'm just kidding.
It's still my home.
Not kidding. Listen, it is, and I don't live in regret. Like I belong on Shluchos. I had an opportunity to leave Shluchos. Let's be real.
Yeah.
And I live on Shluchos.
And you get into that in your book.
Yes. It's not an easy life. It is such a rewarding life. It is a privilege. It is blessed. I don't know. Maybe when I was younger, not maybe, for sure. When I was younger, I spent more time, woe is to me, or feeling sorry for myself, or not wanting it, but not really ever taking any steps. Maybe there was fear, or maybe this is what I have to, there's a lot. But at the end of the day, this is where I live, and living here. I mean, you see, I'm not faking it when I take pictures of the trees and the flowers every day.
Exactly. One of the things that I really love about you and attracted me to you is your pragmatic approach to life. It takes a lot of bravery, but the way that you are comfortable with saying, not necessarily the popular thing or what's the word?
The soundbite.
Yes, like the soundbite of what everyone's expected to hear or what people want to hear from you. And the ability to be a really independent thinker and to express yourself holding many things at once. And one of the things that I think you do really well, there is this attitude there is this narrative that happens. I think I grew up with it. I contend with it, not so much anymore because it's not how I live. But this idea of like, it's perfect, right? Living on Shluchos is like, it's perfect. It's blessed. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no like, the challenges are never discussed. It's like this utopia dream of an experience. And what's interesting is like, it is a beautiful experience and it is a privilege and it's really, really hard. And we are human. I think there's a lot of used to be more where the Rebbetzin or the rabbi just had to be untouchable or on this level that just felt like perfection. And you do this in your book, which is incredible. I don't know, did it feel brave, to be really honest?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's when I read it, that's what I wanted to know. I'm like, did this feel very brave? Because when as a reader, I'm so in awe and I'm like, this was really brave. So you are able to hold both of these things of Shluchos being a privilege and a blessing and an amazing life's mission and the real day-to-day existential struggles, not just like this is hard, but like the philosophical struggles that you encountered. And what I've also noticed was even at a young age, I think you're talking about lighting Shabbos candles in Berkeley. And like, I'm really excited to have all these guests. And also it's kind of really annoying, like you were doing this at a young age, like just recognizing and noticing that there's a lot of beauty to this. And also like this is annoying. Like, people are in my space. I don't want to do this right now. So could you speak to that a little bit?
Okay, so I want to like clarify your question, because I don't think anyone thinks shlichus is easy. People, it's almost annoying how much people say to us, "Oh, I don't know how you do it," and oh my, like, meaning people.
But it's almost that. It's like putting the people on a pedestal of like, you're amazing for doing this. It's like that's part of the question,
right? So that needs to be clarified. That people look at us and they dehumanize us, basically.
Correct. That's what I'm. Yes, thank you for clarifying.
We also dehumanize ourselves, because
correct.
I was listening to the banquet this year, and there were 6 stories of superwomen, and it was like all the ways that these shluchos saved somebody else, and it really like struck me, like, okay, and who's saving you?
Right.
Who is saving us? Who is saving the shlucha? Okay, not saving, but maybe who is here
noticing?
Who's noticing? What are we going through? I mean, just very, there was a story where, a guy was in a tree and he noticed the Shabbos candles and it saved his life. Okay, that's beautiful. But there's a mother in that house who's also struggling, maybe. The mother of all those kids, the woman who put together that Shabbos table.
Yeah.
And I do think that we are in a culture of a lot of like self-congratulations and feeling very like, because it's so hard, we give ourselves like so much kudos. It's like we bypass the difficult parts, because maybe if we mention the difficult parts, we'll get stuck there. There is, I mean, I think it's so many things that that the culture, the first time, I mean, you want to specifically speak about like being on shlichus. So the first time there was a kinos, and it was actually my cousin, so proud, spoke about postpartum depression for the Matzah Shop Malav Malka session publicly in front of everybody. I was like, oh, yeah. Like, I'm not amazed that she suffered from postpartum depression, but I was like, I felt so relieved that like we're
just saying it.
And we're in such a private space. I know this is not a private space, but it's okay. This was in, I'll tell you what year it was in, because I'll tell you the story after. But I remember thinking like, thank you. And I was speaking to somebody not on shlichus in Crown Heights, and I said to her, did you hear what my cousin spoke about at the Saturday night at the Malaka? And she's like, oh, I heard. How so very 2016 of her.
Wow. 2016. You think it was like the 80s?
Yeah.
Wow.
So what is that comment? And what are we so afraid of?
Yeah.
What are we so afraid of? Are we so...
Being human. Why are we afraid to be human?
Yeah. Like, why are we afraid? Like, I feel like, I've heard Rabbi Shais Taub talk about this, and I've heard it from other sources as well. But like, truth, real truth should be able to stand. It doesn't need defenses. It doesn't need anyone there's no gatekeeping truth. And all of this is what my sister is like, we like to call gatekeeping. And there's a lot of gatekeeping going on with just image. And, it is true. Like Shluchos are amazing and they do amazing things, and 100%. They're so successful and they're touching people. But why does that have to come at the expense of also being real about our own challenges as people, our own challenges of faith, and our own challenges of raising children, our own challenges of our values, and our own challenges of doing it all, and our own challenges of what we thought our life was supposed to look like and it doesn't look like? There's so many real existential experiences. I recently heard on a podcast somebody interviewing a Baal Tshuva from, when my parents were on Shluchos, like that, from the 60s. And the interviewer said, we as Shluchim, we ask our Baal Tshuva to do all these things, like keep kosher, to change so many things in their lives. And we don't have to change that. We don't have to change anything. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I think that in the beginning, early years, the Rebbe's the Rebbe's marching orders were to go out there and change and do and shake and shake and change and do. But if you listen closely and you listen to the Rebbe's parting words to us, and the last 2 years, the Rebbe was asking us to change.
Yeah. And you have to change. Like if you're in a community or as a community leader, or you're in a position of leadership, mentorship, if you're not working on yourself at the same time, if it's only like a top down experience, like that isn't, I don't know how to describe what that is. But what I've noticed in my experience being on Shluchos for almost 20 years now, is the biggest thing that's asked of you is to be honest with yourself. Really, like my husband and I talk about this all the time. I'm like, he gives this amazing sermon, and I'm like, you got to practice what you preach. Like it's really easy to say those things up on the podium, but these aren't meant to be sermons. They're meant to be ways of life. And I think our job is to just because we were born keeping kosher and keeping Shabbos, that's not what this is about. It's us as humans, and we're constantly being asked and challenged to become more and more truthful and authentic and real. And that's what needs to be happening.
Yeah, it's almost like we exist on this very visual plane.
Yeah.
And just not to be harsh, but it's called superficiality.
Yeah.
And we can't.
Is it scary to say, like, I don't know, because this is my experience, but do you think it's scary for people, like, let's say somebody in the community comes to them and has a crisis of faith, or has a question on God, or has a question about a story in the Torah? Like, is it scary to say, like, wow, I have that question too, or I don't know the answer, or let's explore this with you. Like, I don't know, I have a crisis with Hashem all the time.
It's not scary for me.
Right. But do you think it's scary for some?
Yeah, I just don't think it's in people's like consciousness. Like it is when you're on a mission and you are mission driven and you have one dimension of that you're willing to grapple with, everything is going to keep you there. Like they say, you stay safe and small.
Mm-hmm.
And the trap of Shluchos is that we're actually, even if it's superficial, we're doing amazing things. So like our superficial is like the next person's, whole life. Like this guy said on the podcast, we're asking people to change and we don't need to change. He didn't say it arrogantly. He was just like, it's like unfair of us. And I'm thinking, no, we actually have to change.
You should, there should be some change going on.
So the point is that the Rebbe had such high standards of us, and we're asked to be the next. I mean, my own personal feeling about this is that if we are the world's darlings today, which we are, the Litvish world, the Yeshivish world, the modern, everybody is, everybody, a huge percentage of Jews today are in utter appreciation and adoration of Chabad. It feels really nice, but I think it means we're not doing our job, because the Rebbe always pushed us
to the uncomfortable places.
And if everyone's comfortable with us, we are not doing our jobs.
What do you think the next step is? Like, what does that look like
It looks like showing the world. We rip off the mask.
Yeah.
We show the world. I mean, Chavie, you're doing this, so you wouldn't even. This is literally what you are doing. Is you are sharing with the world your deep process of trying to figure it out, trying to be regulated and be at peace with the contrast and be okay with things not working out the way they were promised to you, and being an Ezer Kenegdo for your husband and showing us what that looks like. And that is the real work of being human. And that is a dir b'tachtainim.
Yeah, I love that. It's really something to think about. It's like, okay, if we're not making waves, if we're not, and people are uncomfortable
waves, we need, when we are it just occurred to me that I grew up, and like I said, I lived in the yeshivish world, very much so. I went to, after Cheder closed down, I went to Tar Semes, and then I went to Beis Yaakov, and Chabad was off the wall. They made everyone so uncomfortable.
Exactly.
People didn't know where to put themselves.
We were aliens.
And because the Rebbe was demanding us to do alien things like love of a fellow Jew, even if they putting on tefillin,
lighting Shabbos candles with people who aren't religious.
If they hadn't put on Negelwasser that morning, that was a huge issue for like the poseks of the door.
Wow,
it's like a halachic issue. How did the Rebbe dare allow this?
Yeah, it's so true. So my question is, because I think from a young age you were noticing this dichotomy, right? These two truths. Did you go into Shluchos with a better capability or understanding of the whole of holding these two truths, or did you have to learn that in a much deeper way through the years and through process?
I mean, I've had to learn a ton. That's not a doubt. Like,
for sure.
I had to learn a ton. I had to grow up. I had to, gain. There's consciousness, and then there's consciousness of consciousness, and consciousness of consciousness.
Yeah.
There's no end. But do I feel like I went into Shluchos with a discerning eye, a little cynicism, a little bit of, freedom? Sure. Mm-hmm. Sure. Healthy cynicism.
Yeah.
Unhealthy cynicism too.
Well, yeah, it comes, always like all our best qualities are our worst qualities. All our amazing things have a shadow side. I talk about this all the time, again, a lot with my husband. It's like, yeah, the things that you are, that make us successful and make you you, and that make, that I love about you are also the things that I want to kill you for.
Yeah.
It's just how you use it. And the same applies to me. Like the things that make me me and successful in my own way are the things that also hold me back if I'm not being conscious and using. It's all about using your tools in the best way.
Talk about you and your husband. You guys come from very different backgrounds, and ironically, my husband and I come from very similar backgrounds in the sense that we both grew up in California Shlichus, and we both experienced the same, whatever that was. Our parents were very close as shluchim together. So we do come from we even went to the same yeshivish day school. I mean,
wow, okay, yeah.
So we have a commonality in how I think our world views.
Yeah, it's so interesting because on the one hand, it's like Chabad families, it's within a system, but within that system, like my husband grew up in Crown Heights. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas.
Right. Your grandfather's a philosophy professor.
My grandfather is a philosophy professor, grew up in London, Ontario. I think I said this recently. I'm like, I constantly am like philosophizing in my brain. And one day I had this epiphany. I'm like, why do I think about this stuff? Does anybody else walk around think about this stuff? And I'm like, I come by it honestly. Like my grandfather's Dr. Block, a world-renowned philosopher. It trickled down a little,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we have very different, a lot of obviously common ground and the things that we want and the thing, our goals and whatever, but very different worldview in the sense of like growing up in Crown Heights, growing up in San Antonio, Texas. Our parents were very different. My father-in-law is Israeli and Russian and, that. And my father is like, I don't know, 6th generation American, So we have to constantly kind of talk through the different perspectives and how we see things.
Right. Yeah.
It's a full-time job.
So fun.
Yeah.
It's much more interesting.
Yeah, it is. It keeps things exciting, that's for sure. But okay, so how did you meet your husband?
We moved to LA and joined this class at Tars MS, and there's like 4 other Lubavitcher boys, and one of them is Dena Schusterman. So Dena Schusterman starts hanging out in our house a lot, and he's a total rascal.
I love it.
He is like prank calling his sisters from my house. I would hear him. He's just like one of the guys. And then the next thing I know is I am, ready to start dating. And my parents are like, I dated one boy before. And then my parents are like, what about going out with Dena Schusterman? I was like, what? Like I spent a whole year in seminary because one of my friend's brothers was his roommate, and she was like, where her brother was. I was like, yeah, oh, he's with Elio. Elio's such a great guy. but it wasn't like my husband.
Yeah.
He was just
you just knew him from around.
Yeah, but I didn't have a crush on him or anything.
Yeah.
So I was like, where's this coming from? And sure enough, it was coming from him. And he had reached out to like a cousin, a mutual friend, to ask my brother. He didn't go straight to my brother. And then the cousin.
Okay, he had his eye on you.
Right. So what was the backstory is that he had decided at my brother's bar mitzvah, I guess I'm wearing a gold lame gown. And that's when he decided he was.
How old were you at your brother's bar mitzvah?
11 and he was 13. And
oh my God, this goes back.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so cute. I cannot. That's amazing.
So, I don't know if I had a choice. No. He only told me that a little bit after, probably after we got engaged. But yeah, that was his, and what he sets his mind to, baby, he gets. So, we went out and it quickly became evident that like, this is a great guy, as I was been saying.
Yeah.
And I really liked him. And then as I said, I write in the book, went to Catalina Island, and you have to take a boat because it's an island. And on the way back, I was in the bathroom and I was just like, looked in the mirror. I was like, this guy could be the father of my children. I like him. And then proposed to me the next day.
Oh my gosh. That's a great story. It's not such a typical story.
No, it's not so typical because he was in middle of he left yeshiva, which again is his own, unique way of doing things. He was done with yeshiva. He wanted to work in Russia. He was the rabbi in a community in Russia. He heard through the grapevine that I was dating already. He was afraid I would get engaged to somebody else. So he told his father he wants to get married. And his father's like, do you have someone in mind? He's like, actually,
I do.
Actually, yeah. He had come home like on a fundraising trip for his community in Russia. He's 21, mind you.
Oh my gosh.
And his father's like, okay, let me call our mutual friend, Verghese, who was like an aunt to me and an aunt to him. We both were very, she had been very close to his mom. And then we went out, and it was like, he came home for this fundraising trip and got engaged. And yeah.
Wow. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Like, what a great story to tell your kids. Like, most of us don't have this kind of story. It's like, okay, we got set up a shotgun, blah, blah, It's such a great story.
It's here on my wall. My kids have made this for me. It says November 1986, Dad spots Mom for the first time.
No. I can't. Okay, go back. I want to see. What's the timeline?
Our story so far, November 1996, Dad spots Mom for the first time. March 1995, Dad and Mom's first date.
Oh my gosh. This is adorable. It's so cute. Okay, so you get engaged, you get married, and then what happens next?
We attempt some shlichus. We actually were guaranteed a shlichus in California. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Back up. We are scheduled to move to Russia. That was part of the deal. Then, like my parents leaving shlichus, it doesn't happen for us just like that. The container doesn't go through. Whatever it was, I was pregnant, and my husband decides to give up on that dream. And I was very okay. I think that had my husband at Elio from the beginning made a decision to go to Russia for 1 year, we would have gone and never left. But because Elio is an all or nothing kind of guy.
Yes, he's like, we're going for life.
So we never went, which is amazing. Thank you, Hashem.
Thank you, Hashem.
So then we looked into shlichus in California, and that wasn't, some really just uncomfortable situations there.
Yeah.
And two different specific shlichuses that we had, and then we didn't. And then we were at this point living with my parents for months and months, like a year almost. But my parents had nobody at home. It was amazing. So then we had a baby, and Elio looked into some businesses he was going to buy. And we looked into opening up like just our own thing, like a learning center in the La Brea area. There was nothing like I knew from growing up there, they were non-religious Jews, and there was nothing for them. Like Chabad was not doing outreach.
Yeah.
So we thought about opening just something on our own. And then we got this job in Atlanta where my sister was. So we joined my sister. And then after we weren't even here a year, my sister left. And that was so sad.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
She was on Shluchos and then left?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this brings me to a very interesting theme that you talk about in your book, but also you're talking about now is this, and you talk about it also about your grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
It's this idea of there's something that doesn't work, it's not right, and the ability to cut your losses and to leave. Now, there's a lot of ways to look at this. You can look at it, oh my gosh, leaving, but there's actually the way that I've kind of absorbed it and see it is this real strength and bravery in leaving something that's not working anymore. And it brings up this idea of doing something at all costs. Oftentimes, I noticed in my own life, I used to operate this way. Like if there was something that I really believed in, I would do it at all costs. I don't operate that way so much anymore. I've come to understand that not everything is meant to be at all costs. And you talk a lot about this with your parents having to have left Shluchos almost twice. And you talk about your grandfather's story. There's a story of him also having to just leave what he was doing. And then you talk about your experience of also almost having to leave, deciding whether you're going to leave or not. And the thread, I don't remember exactly how you say it, but you're like, am I going to do the thing that all my ancestors have done?
Mm-hmm.
Or and what's the right thing? Is staying or leaving the right? How do you know, like, when it's the right thing to leave or when it's the right thing to stay?
Because Hashem guides our steps,
Yeah.
Although I want to talk about like my parents, my grandparents, I think for them, it was actually revolutionary that they left.
That's what I am saying. It is so revolutionary. It's so brave.
For me, it would be revolutionary to stay, which we did.
Right.
And for them, it was revolutionary to leave.
That's really powerful. When you think about it that way, it's like, what's the revolutionary thing that's happening here?
Yeah.
Especially in that culture, especially back then, like leaving took so much strength.
Yeah.
And also leaving is easy to judge.
Yeah. 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 I experienced that a lot. I mean, I lived in Los Angeles post my parents' shlichus. I got a lot of, camp in New York. There was a lot of comments about, it lasted like that. The judgment and the surprise and my parents aren't the only people to ever have left.
For sure.
Obviously.
For sure.
But
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if we really trust, I'm just listening to, I'm not even finished with the class, but Rabbi Jacobson's Tuesday class, women's class this week is about sending the spies and something I had never considered, but it says, Lech Lecha, and go for yourself. And the Mefarshim never ask what this language is in terms of saying, Avram, do it for yourself, nothing to do with me. But then when it says, Shlach Lecha, send for yourself, suddenly Hashem's like, nothing to do with me, Moshe. If you want to make this decision, it's not related to me. I'm not taking any responsibility or accountability for you. You get to make this decision. How come they're both viewed so differently? And basically, this was the first time Moshe was being allowed to be his own leader. And Moshe was, and Moshe knew there's going to be consequences. And in the end, the consequences were going to be worth it. And in the end, so when we look at all of our lives, it doesn't matter if we leave or stay. It's like, can we own our lives? Can we own our decisions? Can we stand by them? And can we kind of full circle to this beginning of this conversation is being okay with the decisions we make and living in pride with them. And if we made them, for sure, there were years my father lived in some kind of regret or guilt or whatever it was. I don't doubt it. But at the end of the day, he's made, he's an amazing human being. And it's really, it's not at the end of the day, really believing we, sometimes I'm like, why did we stay?
I'm sure.
So it's interesting.
I love what you said. And I think it needs to be fleshed out a little is it doesn't matter if you stay or leave. At the end of the day, it's owning your decision, making a decision with a lot of thought and a lot of eyes wide open and pragmatic attitude. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the decision is.
My husband always tells my kids, he's like, just choose. It doesn't matter what you choose, but choose.
But choose and then stand by it.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe the common thread that I feel in your story and in your family's story is it's not about the leaving or the staying. It's about making a choice and owning it and sticking with it. And sometimes that choice has ramifications that aren't fun.
Right. I think it's the bravery. It's not staying stuck. Yeah. And that is very, it's very profound. And I feel very lucky to have that in
your blood. Like I have philosophy in my blood.
Yeah. Movement in my blood.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's very apparent to me that stories are something that are very important to you and close to your heart. I read an article that you talked about this idea of stories, and you did like a Eli talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I actually listened to it. It was great. You talk about how powerful stories are, and your book is called Stories Carry. And this theme is really strong, and I relate to it because I feel like my podcast is that I want to hear people's stories, and I feel like we learn the most and we can relate the most, and not from a lecture, but from someone who's really sharing of themselves, a story, their ancestors. So this is what you do. So how did this idea come to be that you were you obviously, you shared before that you were carrying these stories very close to you. How did it come to be that you even had the idea that you wanted to put them down in a book?
If I remember, it's definitely not linear. It's like maybe like a nesting doll of what came out. But doing that Eli talk, so I signed up to do this Eli talk as part of this cohort that you had to introduce an innovative idea based out of our Jewish culture and our legacy or our inheritance of being Jewish. So it had to be connected to Judaism. And I don't know how, but maybe what was going on. I think what was going on for me is that we had this family tragedy doubled on top of each other, my grandmother's funeral, then a cousin's funeral. And I felt that it was stories that gave us the capacity to show up, the resilience. And then there was scientific research. Marshall Duke, he wrote the article in the New York Times about resilience coming from knowing the oscillating stories of our family, which is the good, the bad, the ugly, how we rose. It's the hero's journey, right? To know those stories of our families. Again, going back to what the stories we're putting out about ourselves as shluchos, if they're not oscillating, then they're not really inspiring. But that's, and that's actually true according to Hasidus, that the Eitzras, the whole Eitzer, that the whole treasure chest that God gave us during this time, which is Hasidus, is all stories. That's actually the treasure we have, are these stories. So I had told these stories, and then I decided that I wanted to write my father's stories because I had been at a kinus, and the main speaker, who was a shlucha, I knew that she is telling one of my father's stories at the main banquet. And she had spent about 2 hours with my father interviewing him. And then when I sat there in the crowd, she told the story and she didn't say my father's name. She just said a shliach. And then I don't know if she apologized, maybe she did, but she basically said that she was told she couldn't use my father's name because my father was no longer a shliach.
Wow.
So that was really, and we had picked up bits and pieces of this. Now I have to say, this doesn't happen anymore. This is probably, 2016. I don't know, but
it's not that long ago.
Not that long ago, but Baruch Hashem, changed.
We've come ways.
Yes, I'm very grateful. So, Chabad.org has an article about my father putting up the first large menorah that took years for them to want to acknowledge. So it really, made a big impression on me. And I was like, somebody's got to tell my father's stories, and they're not going to be told this way. And they're going to basically, to use a modern vernacular, he was canceled. And I said, I would like to tell my father's stories. So marrying those two ideas, which is that, why do I want to tell them? Because they're so important and because they are the oscillating narrative of my life. And telling stories are what gives us resilience. Well, here I want to do this.
Yeah.
And that is really the two parts I can remember of. And then it was like, I sat with my friend who's an author, Zoe, and she said to me, Dena, why don't you, and I was like, is it like a chicken soup for the soul kind of book? And, and she's like, why don't you write a memoir? And I was like, oh, I'm like 42. I'm not going to write a memoir. And that's when I started writing, and now I'm publishing a book.
Wait a second. So that's what was my next question, because you started off with maybe going to write your father's stories, and you do, and your grandfather and your grandparents, right? It's stories on top of stories on top of stories, and at the same time, you're telling your story.
Well, yeah, because what came to, the process of writing this book was like, it was therapy. It was cracking me open. It was so intense.
Yeah.
And actually, as I started writing, like in the early days, my husband said to me, Dena, this is going to take you to places that it's going to be really hard for you to go to.
Yeah.
I remember being like, I
got this. Yeah.
And it's true. It's very true. So in the end, as I showed it to more people and as I got more input, I worked the whole time with one unbelievable editor. For all intents and purposes, if I had been enrolled in a master's class, I would have gotten my master's of fine art. I think that's what it's called, through this process. I did that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I had to learn how to write. I had to learn everything from scratch. So it became very evident that you cannot write somebody else's story. You have to write your story. So then I had to keep putting in more bits and pieces of myself. And that, that was much more real, much more authentic, much more interesting.
Yeah.
And because it's coming from me, it has to be me, and much scarier.
Yeah. It's like one thing to write your father's stories. It's a whole nother thing to write your story, and in the way that you chose to write it, which I would describe that as very brave and vulnerable, but with a strength and an edge. It's spicy. It's interesting. It keeps you just engaged the whole time, because there's this layers of happening where it's vulnerable, it's soft, but then it's like you feel that you're getting the real stuff.
Yeah, it was a hard and long and tough journey. It was a lot of work. I think that, yeah.
Did you sit down to write and like, I don't want it to be this?
Yes. I don't want it to be hagiography. Hagiography is the genre of everyone's perfect. And, my mother always said,
the new word. I never heard that word.
Yeah. All the books, 99% of the books that the Frum press puts out are hagiographies. So my mother always said that the most interesting book she's ever read about one of the Elter Hasidim, the older Hasidim from back in the day, is my husband's grandfather, because he wrote his memoir.
Yeah.
So if he wrote it, he was going to acknowledge his own faults. Everybody loves the Frierdiker Rebbe's writing, the previous Rebbe's writing, because he wrote his memoirs.
Yeah.
He wrote about his own doubts and his own struggles. And most people are being written about, so it's this perfect little puff piece about them. And I was not going to write a puff piece. I don't do puff, and I don't. It's not interesting for me. It's not real for me. And I was going to always be real, and I was also not going to be like look for problems that didn't exist. But I was also not going to shove under the rug. I really don't like things shoved under the rug. I've never liked things shoved under the rug. I once told my parents, I said, Iman Abba, there's a big rug in Abba's office, and it's really hairy, and we cannot shove things underneath it. I think I was like 17.
Wow. I think that's what I've been saying that I love about you is we're not shoving things under the rug. Let's talk about these uncomfortable, hard things.
Yeah, I would much rather know the truth than be lied to.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I did what I know. I think that I had to spend a lot of time sermonizing. So a lot of what I wrote was what I'm used to, which is a sermon, telling people how to think, telling people what to say, like, and you can imagine from me, it wasn't even like so intense. It was just mid-level because of how I am. But even that was like, I mean, I remember showing a very early version of my book to somebody, and this person said to me, you don't tell us like how revolutionary the Rebbe was. And I was like, I'm not pouring honey down anyone's throat. Like if somebody wants to understand that from my writing, like, I learned about trusting the reader, and I had to so many times. My editor was like, Dena, stop sermonizing. And now when I read some of the stuff out there, I just can't read it anymore because it's a sermon. It's like, you're telling me how to think, and don't tell me how to think.
I think it's very brave to write in a way that forces you to trust the reader. And while I was reading the book, it's very evident. I think I said that to you without knowing. I'm like, you're trusting the reader in such a big way. And it is revolutionary, I think, in the religious world space of what we get in our books. And the quality of writing is bar none. And I think I said to you, I was like, if there was more Jewish books with this quality of writing, maybe we would read more Jewish books. I think we need to raise the standard on what is out there. I think you're going to do that.
I hope so. If nothing else. So I really, that makes me feel very, very proud to hear you say that. And, compliments are lovely. Mm-hmm. But what I have learned is that compliments that don't come with a lot of hard work behind them are just...
Exactly. They don't mean anything.
Yeah, they don't mean anything. So it was really, really hard. And I worked, first of all,
it took many years.
I woke up at 4:30 the mornings that I wrote.
I can't even imagine. That's like torture.
I cannot either. Like, it was so hard. It was so good. It was like 4:30 to 6:30 was my writing time.
Wow.
And then I would get back, pages from my editor, and I worked with her like on a weekly basis. And I would get pages back from her, like asking me to rewrite things. And it was torture. Like, it was torture for me to even have to consider how she was asking me to rewrite it and what she was considering me to think about. And I was making such, because I come from, all of us, we come from those of us who grew up with like, mefarshim and deep level thinking. And like, I was overcomplicating everything. All she was asking me to do was add like a line, a word. And I was like, so lost and working so hard. And I mean, the years and years it took is probably because it was, to get I got a book deal over a year and a half ago. So like, to take this long. I know more now today.
Were there times where you were just like, I'm done. I'm putting this away. I can't.
No.
Only
when I was done and I'd given it to be published and then they were working on it. I think I didn't look at my book for like 12 months. I never read it. I was sick of it.
Yeah.
Sick of it. But it was in hands already. It was being
right. It was, yeah.
I didn't
need you anymore.
I was like,
yeah.
Did not want to look at it again. No, I loved every minute of it.
Really? What was your favorite part about writing?
Being told it's not good enough, write more. And then coming up with something like just coming out of me and being able to figure something out and to, how does this story fit into my life? And what was the lesson I really learned? And what's the lesson behind that lesson? What's the real lesson? And what was I really feeling? And then to watch the magic of, let's say, me writing that I'm in high heels And my editor's saying, do you see that you're in high heels is when your lowest point happens? But you happen to have written, like, why would I have described that I'm wearing high heels? I don't know. But that's like this metaphor out of you that you don't even know.
Realize what's happening.
Yeah. And it just, it really comes through you. It's like a very spiritual, intuitive, all the
things,
all the very like woo-woo things you do when you're writing a book.
There is a dream of mine to write a book. I've said this many times, but I'm not ready and I'm scared of it. Like, I know just from what I do, sharing of myself and how I share and the podcast, like, I know how intensely and vulnerable it's like it's sharing a piece of me. And I feel like a book is like the ultimate share. It's like, it's not necessarily about the content. It's the fact that you are literally sharing a piece of you, a piece of your soul. And it's so scary. It's so scary. And anyone who...
Scare me more, please.
No, but in the best way, in the best way. You have nothing to worry about with your book. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, I do. But it's okay.
Okay, listen, there's people who are gonna have to put on their big boy pants and deal with it however they want to deal with it. You can't control that.
I just, it's very funny because a friend of mine said to me, she's like, Dena, like, you want people talking about you? Like, and I was like, I can't really control that. People are talking about me anyway. I'm like a rebel.
Yeah.
And then I was walking on the street and this guy, a neighbor, saw me and he's like, Dena, we were just talking about you.
Yeah.
And I'm a rebel.
There you go.
And I was like, although my friend, I'm like, don't tell me they're not talking about you too. You run a preschool, for goodness sake. They're talking.
Oh, they're talking about you.
So it's not like, again, I love living. I don't know if I feel it all the time, but I love, what people say about me is not my business. It really isn't. No. So, listen, whatever. It's like,
just say it, whatever.
I've thought about 100 different things. It's irrelevant. When October 7th happened, you asked me if I wanted to throw out my book. I think then I wanted to. I was like, what the heck? Who cares? Yeah. Who cares about my stupid story? Like, I was like, forget it. This is not happening. So there's definitely been those moments, but I also want it like, okay, and maybe it's not such a big deal. I wrote it. People read it. They won't read it. Like, I want to be able to like hold it lightly in that way. Like,
not take yourself too seriously.
Yeah. My big goal was to write the book, to get it published. I didn't want to self-publish it. I was very clear. I was never going to self-publish this book. It wasn't, I had to get it published with a proper publisher. And Dana,
you did that.
I did that.
I want to talk about for a second this concept of vulnerability.
Okay.
Because you actually say in the book this idea of vulnerability and what is actual vulnerability. And you write this memory in the book where we know this concept of like Moshiach al halev, which is like mind rules the heart. And what does that mean? And it's very easy for it to mean, or for us to absorb it in a way that's like, don't let your emotions overtake you. Think logically. Don't be an emotional mess. Like, do the thing that you know is right and kind of almost bypass or ignore your feelings. And you talk about that. That's kind of what it meant to you. And this kind of realization and recognizing that Moshiach al halev isn't about surpassing your emotions and ignoring them or bypassing them. It's about feeling them, recognizing them, understanding them, and then using your mind to make proper choices, but it's not about bypassing this experience that you're having. And you mentioned that you actually struggled with vulnerability. Like, that was something that it didn't come easy to you. So I want to hear about this journey from being an intellectual, which I think you are. You're very intellectual, leading from that place, and then kind of uncovering and understanding, well, what does it really mean to have your mind rule your heart? How do you let your heart express itself and be vulnerable and not be a basket case? You know what I mean? Or somebody who's just overtaken by their emotions.
Yes. Wait, what's the question is how did I figure that out?
Right. And what does vulnerability actually mean?
Okay.
especially for you?
I think for me, vulnerability means leading with an open heart and being open-hearted. So that means, as a contrast, that means not being defensive, and that means not being right, and that means not being smarter than everyone, and that means not being in control and not knowing. So, that was through the book writing and through my process of raising my kids. I did need to recognize that I am an emotional person because, like you said, I always had this story that I'm an academic or that I'm
right.
intellectual.
Yeah.
Actually, one version of my book I sent to a friend of mine, and she said to me, Dena, this book is like it's like an academic book. Like you could put it and I'm actually getting published with the university press, but now. And she said, it's like an academic book. Like you could put it, if somebody's doing anthropology of
research. Yeah.
And I was like, and then I was like, I'm actually really not, and something about that conversation with her, like opened
you up.
Understanding, like, I'm actually really very emotional.
Yeah.
And then really getting in touch with that. I don't allow my emotions ever to be, and then of course they come out and they leak in all
sideways,
insane ways. And I understand how that happened to me, just being that little girl in the Chabad house where everybody's invading my space and, having to be, living in a fishbowl, having to be the rabbi's daughter, who knows, it doesn't really, I know my own journey through that, and also being in a home like my grandparents' home where emotions were, if I'm so sensitive and I can feel the emotion that's underneath my Holocaust-survivor grandparents' home and I'm not allowed to ever touch those emotions, then I'm going to just down.
I think that happens.
So that was a real understanding that. And, I write in my book that one day I was like, if I'm not dealing with this, then Hitler's bullets are still shooting in my house. Like if I'm not actually putting a stop to this repression of the emotions because they are so painful. Think about my bubby who lost her whole family. So nobody walked her through the fact that you could love people and lose them and you could love that same way again. And she had to teach herself, like, just to be guarded and not to love the same way. And my bubby was very loving, but I'm sure there was a part of her that was always suspicious and scared. Yeah. So, that's very real. And through the years I was writing it, all this different research came up about being, from specifically, now it was always like Holocaust generation, but really the whole world was actually going through World War II. The men coming back from war, like America really didn't have it much better. They had just finished the Depression. Like we went straight from the Depression into World War II, World War I, Depression, World War II. Like it was a lot of, everybody was really struggling, and it doesn't really matter if it's one community or the other, but the world was struggling. And one day when I was in LA with Elio and we were at the pizza shop, Nagila, was it Nagila? Yeah. Or it was La Pizza, maybe it was called. I don't remember. Anyway, I can't believe I don't remember well. Anyway, it was on Fairfax. Anyone listening, it was an older, like Hungarian guy. He was so scary. And he ran it. Delicious food. He would yell at all of us and tell us to sit down. And it was like on Fairfax between 3rd and 4th or whatever. So I remember being there and being like, I knew him 40 years after the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Meaning like I was born 40 years after the Holocaust. So like it was his life. Like he was from Europe. Like it was just so it's so real for me. And so not needing to be right is a huge one in my world.
That's really big for me too. I really struggle with that.
Yeah, I think if I'm being like kind of coy about it, like my toxic trait was or is needing to be right. And that's really hard to shed.
Yeah.
But it's also not hard.
When the people say, like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? I'm like, I'm happy when I'm right.
Yeah. So that is.
Oh, it's such a struggle.
Yeah. It's also not hard. Like eventually it's like, it's so freeing.
Yeah. When you get there.
Yeah. It's so freeing not to have all the answers, and who cares?
I have to tell you something about not having all the answers. It's just very recent for me because I think we, especially as parents, we know, okay, we know we can't control everything. Like bigger picture, we understand that conceptually. But when you're really in a situation where it's difficult and you need to make choices and you don't know what the right choice is, or you don't know what's going to happen after you make that certain choice. And I recently was talking to my therapist, who's literally like a character in my, if only he knew how much I talked about him in my podcast, but saves my life. What should I say? And I was talking about this scenario of like needing to make a decision on how I wanted to respond to a certain situation. And it's scary because I don't know what's going to happen after after I make my choice, what's going to happen. And he said to me, he's like, the answer is, you don't know. And I'm usually pretty comfortable in making decisions, but I also have this part of me that I think is also human, is scared of being judged. And the decisions I had to make are very easily judgeable. And what are people going to think? And people are going to ask me, well, what happens what happens if this? And what happens if that? And what are you going to do next? And to have the answer to just say, I don't know, is so freeing. But I feel like that is a definition of vulnerability, to be able to say, I don't know. I don't have the answers. I don't know how this is going to, what the future is. I don't know how this person's going to react to my decision. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. And the crazy thing is that we don't know. We like to pretend that we're going to know, or we like to have answers, but to not just play lip service to we don't have control. I don't know what's going to happen, but to really embrace it and to really live it and to really be like, I don't know. And it's scary. And it feels really vulnerable to make a choice and not know what's going to happen afterwards.
Like publishing my book.
Like publishing your book. Like, do you know what's going to happen after you publish a book? You don't know.
I don't know.
And it's probably really scary. I can only imagine.
It's really scary.
It's really scary. But that is an example of being vulnerable and like putting money where your mouth is. Like not just playing lip service to this concept of vulnerability, but actually doing vulnerable things. Like it's very easy to be to talk about being vulnerable and to say I'm vulnerable and to say a vulnerable thing. Like you can say something personal and it feels vulnerable. But what's really vulnerable is to do the vulnerable thing without knowing what the outcome is going to be.
Oh yeah. When I started this journey, I spoke to somebody who was helping me in the beginning, helping me edit. And he said to me, who is your audience? He's like, you need to get so specific with your audience, because the more specific you are, the more universal you are. That's like
yes.
So I said, okay, my audience is the liberal, progressive Jewish community in Atlanta that I serve on my shlichus. That's my audience. So with that in mind, I was like, these are the messages I want to give. And I, like you said, I trust the reader. I jumped into the Hebrew words. I just read that book. It's an Indian themed book, the water book. They're all cursed by the water. What was that book called?
Oh, I don't know if I know that
book. Whoever the writer is, starts naming clothing pieces and food. I don't know what these are. It's like saying kapusnikas and gebrachs and
right.
And I don't know, like she's throwing out words, and she trusts me that if I really want to know what these words mean,
I'm going to figure it out.
I'm going to go Google it. And I have an index in the back, or a glossary. So I became so hyper focused on this is my intended audience that like when I'll go to Crown Heights or 770 or like the Isle, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe they're going to.
Can you imagine like these people reading your book?
Yeah. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Please don't read my book.
Right.
But they will probably. And, So
definitely after they hear this podcast, they're going to want to read it.
It is very vulnerable. And it took a lot of work for me to get here. How about that?
Yeah. And did you notice as you're writing your book, because this is happening over many years, right? You started at 42.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's
like 2018. So
yeah,
maybe, yeah. I told you I'm not.
8 years. 8 years.
Okay. So 8 years ago, I was 42. Yeah.
So did you notice the way that you were living your life change?
Oh,
from writing this book?
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so much. It was all part of the like therapeutic healing, discovery, consciousness, growth. All of it is hand in hand. And again, I just, I wrote this book as my shlichus. I guess I don't think I kind of reiterated that. Like and you asked me if I wanted to write it in this way. I didn't, it didn't come up for me. Now I'm remembering that big thing I kept saying is that we are out there in so many different ways as shluchim, but nobody has written like shtisel level for shluchos, right? Like if there was a show on the level of shtisel, which came out about the Haredi community in Israel, which was loving and real and very authentic, and if that was written in a way to inspire Yidden, that would be like marvelous. So that's what I went in writing this book. I am going to do my shlichus through this book, but I'm going to do it on a level that feels like you're just reading a memoir, and you are just reading a memoir.
Yeah.
I definitely, and that's why I had to stop sermonizing, because the paradox is like when you want to sermonize, no one's listening, but if you be real, then you can actually promote hopefully some real change. And I did have, for example, one woman read it years ago, probably 6 years ago. And she said to me, Dena, had I read this book when I was younger, I would have had more children.
Wow. Yeah. And that's beautiful because you talk about motherhood in a very real way. It is not sugar-coated at all.
I don't do sugarcoats.
I know. I know. Do we love that about you?
Did you see that guy? I don't know, somebody on Facebook asked me if he's looking for a sweet woman and do I want to get...
Yeah.
So I'm like, first of all, I'm not
sweet. I actually saw that and I loved it so much. I'm like, if there's nothing more Dena than that. By the way, I'm not sweet.
By the way, I did not respond to this.
No, I know, but
I just screenshot it and put it on my Instagram. But yeah, I would never respond to somebody like that.
Of course. So the world takes us in a lot of, especially now, like the world moves fast and we have a lot we're exposed to, and we have a lot. And then we have the trends of like what you need to do to get attention. And I'm interested because we were just having this conversation. It's like, you have to say extreme things to get attention, right? You have to have a hot take.
Right.
To get attention, to get people talking. First of all, I think that this is...
Yeah, but Chavie, you do that without trying.
Right. That's the thing. That's what I want to kind of differentiate. It's like there's a people who say things that are maybe hot takes or aren't communal thinking naturally, which I think you fall into that category, and as do I most of the time. And then there's this trend of like, how am I going to find something to say that is scandalous, or that's what I want to say about your book, by the way. I just remember because I said the word scandalous. Your book it's not meant to be scandalous, right? You're not writing this book to be the talk of the town and to be scandalous. There are things in there that people could be like, wow, I can't believe she's writing about that. But it's very obvious that it's not meant to be clickbait or rage bait or scandalous, which I think is very hard to do, but that's on like such a cool level.
I want to give just an example so no one's like walks away like,
yeah.
Like for me, describing the scene in the mikveh and having to...
But I literally have that written down. I wanted to talk about that scene. Just to prove, here's the book, here's my little tab, and it's the mikveh. Here's a highlight, and it's the mikvah scene.
So even writing that, I put my clothing down on the pedestal sink, like that was so hard to write because it was like, I'm actually taking someone with me to the mikvah.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. Like it's not over there, it's here. So you know what I mean? Like that was that could be perceived as scandalous, I think.
Yes, 100%. I love the way that you talked about this mikvah experience that you had during COVID, where you're going to the men's mikvah. It's not glamorous. It's really difficult. You take us through that whole process, and you take us through this idea of doing this really hard thing, and it's actually like kind of gross, and also at the same time, like appreciating and understanding the tradition and the ancient message and the real reason why we're doing this. And I highlighted this phrase, this quote that you said that you said to your daughters, and you said, our bodies matter, our choices matter, and sometimes what's ancient can still feel deeply, defiantly alive.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's hard to remember sometimes that what we're doing is an ancient practice because we go to these gorgeous, beautiful modern mikvahs. And if you're listening and you don't know that, or you don't go to a gorgeous modern mikvah, please find one.
Find one.
And I have had the opportunity in my life to go to not such beautiful mikvahs, but this was next level. And I really got the opportunity to feel how ancient this was because I was in an ancient mikvah.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to not tell, but show the difference. So that's why I chose that story, to be able to really highlight that we're so privileged to do this mitzvah today. And it feels so modern.
Yeah, it really comes through. It's really powerful. And also, I think to me, first of all, I've had a lot of very unique and interesting mikvah experiences living in Montana, even though we have just a nicely, freshly renovated, gorgeous mikvah. But I also, to me, I was like, to be able to hold such an ancient custom or mitzvah, it's not even a custom, a mitzvah, and it not to be feeling good in that moment, or really pushing us out of our comfort zone, that I think sometimes I struggle with, or many of us struggle with, our relationship with Hashem having to always feel comfortable, or it always has to feel good, or this doesn't speak to me, that doesn't speak to me. And to me, this was the epitome of really understanding, like, could you holding something ancient and powerful and true and important while it being in the moment very uncomfortable?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think that when we view mitzvahs as needing to meet our comfort level, we are grappling with the mitzvah from a child part of ourself. Children have a really hard time with
being uncomfortable,
that are uncomfortable. And the more, you know, there's that famous marshmallow study that they did with kids, and they said, do you want one marshmallow now, or in an hour I can give you two? And what did the kids choose? So the ability to manage our discomfort when it as relates to something that we can't necessarily see the outcomes is really tapping into an adult part of yourself and being able to recognize we do so many things. I mean, we exercise, it's not comfortable. Raising children is not comfortable, but we do it for the discomfort. So why
do you think religion becomes so much harder to grapple with when it's uncomfortable?
Because we don't always see the benefit of it. We don't understand what is the benefit of what we are doing. And that is approaching it from our childlike view of the world. And all of us, you know, takes time to mature and takes time to look at things through a different, you know, we need perspective and we need context, and we need to, you know, I'm not saying it happens for everybody, and I'm not saying it's relevant to everybody, but sometimes this is where we are coming from. And even noticing that is powerful.
Yeah. That this is like like when you can pull back and say, wow, that's like the child in me that wants to feel comfortable and safe in my relationship with Hashem or whatever, or in anything.
Yeah. Or just, wants to feel comfortable and safe and, eat whatever I want because it's comfortable. I don't know, like.
Oh my God. I just told my husband the other day, I'm like, I just want to be able to eat whatever I want and not get a stomach ache and not have to worry about my weight. And I just want the freedom. Like, I was like, what is it like for people? There are people like this. I know. What is it like for people that don't have to think about what they eat? Like in terms of their health or their, comfort in their body. Gosh, like what a concept.
Yeah. I don't know. It probably is short-lived. Everybody's got to deal with their body eventually.
Yeah.
Whether,
oh my gosh, so true.
Our bones and our,
Yeah, 100%. But I did sidetrack. I was talking about this, being scandalous. And I think there's this approach or people who like just who they are. They know how to talk about things that are out of the box and not mainstream or don't have to, they can think independently outside of the norm. And then we have now this concept where if you're not saying something that's confrontational or controversial, nobody's watching you, right?
Yeah, but I don't come from that kind of energy or have that
100%
live inside of me. That kind of, yeah.
We see that a lot happening right now on social media, right? There's all these trends of like, say, my hot take, or this is what everybody's thinking, and this is how I think, or take out something and turn it on its head. What do you think what the result of that's going to be?
I don't know. No, I
I love it.
No,
I don't know.
I think it's like being promoted. It's a way to like just change up the
narratives.
Yeah, there's always going to be a little. I loved. I think you shared it the other day. Use AI, and it was like use AI and then all the wrong reasons, and it was great. So I think that's a great.
I love that so much because like use AI and it was like this is all the things you're gonna you miss out on when you use AI, but it was said in such a way that like got you to think.
So I don't know. I think it's just a gimmick, but gimmicks only last. So gimmicks only go so far, and I think being real, and I really love that I wrote a book because it's such an ancient. It's such an ancient way of communicating. And I feel really good about that part of it.
Pen to paper, like
I wrote it I typed it, but
right. But it's a physical.
Yeah.
You're going to get a physical book.
Yeah. So that feels very like constant for me. And, many people have told me it's actually that it reads like a love letter to Lubavitch, to my home, to Shluchos.
Totally.
So so that's the intention that I went in with this with is like, and because to me, conflict is not the opposite of love. It's how we.
Yes. That is such a beautiful point. And I think I told you when I read it, I was like, the books that you read that everything is perfect and hunky-dory, they're not believable.
Right.
You're just like, okay, you read it, fine.
For us, like, meaning there are some people who just want to live on that. They just keep me.
Okay. Happy. I guess I have to speak for myself. It's not believable to me.
Because look, there's hundreds of books out there that, like I said, are hagiographies, and some of them, I know the people that they're writing about and I know what they're not writing about. And it's like, like you said, it's not believable because they didn't even include one line about the person's temper. And I witnessed the person's temper in my own, saw that person in shul yell at their wife.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. But that's what I think. That's why I think your book reads like a love letter because it includes the arguments, the conflict, the tension between living in this world, living in this life, so I'm excited for everybody to get a hold of this book.
Yes. By the time this podcast comes out,
this will be imminently out or out already. And it's really, I don't put my stamp of approval on many things so strongly. This like asked my husband while I was reading. I was like, this, I was like, Hamshal, this book's amazing. This book's amazing. This book's amazing. And I'm just huge congratulations on a accomplishment that took so much work and that you had to transform yourself to do. You didn't just write this, like you had to transform yourself and how you live and how you interact and grow, like we talked about in the beginning. We are called to change. We have to change. And different things in people's life calls them to make those changes and to really look at themselves and who they want to be. And I'm assuming this book is one of those things that did that for you. If I may, I want to end off by reading, you have a quote that starts off your book by Paulo
Coelho.
I don't know how to pronounce that name, but I think it just full circle, like, why are stories so important? Like, what is this all about? And it really spoke to me. And I think about this quote a lot. So I just want to end off with reading it. And then you maybe could tell us how you found this quote. But it goes like this. Parents rarely let go of their children, so children let go of them. They move on, they move away. The moments that used to define them are covered by moments of their own accomplishments. It is not until much later that children understand their stories and all their accomplishments sit atop the stories of their mothers and fathers, stones upon stones beneath the water of their lives. And that's basically what we've been talking about. It's all the things, like you raise children, they grow up, they leave. They don't realize till later that their stories are intertwined with their parents' stories, just like you want to write your father's stories, but you can only do that through writing your story and realizing that your story sits atop your parents and your grandparents. And I think just putting a spotlight on how powerful our stories are.
Yeah. So shout out to my friend Heidi Einhorn. She put it on Facebook one day, and I was like, that is everything. So it's
everything, right? You read that and like, that's everything.
The quote is actually attributed to two different people. So I didn't even need to get like permission because it's not
right. It's not super known who.
Yeah. It doesn't like who does. Anyway, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope whoever wrote it gets all the credit, and this person or the other person.
Yeah.
And this is where I saw it quoted. So I used that quote. And yeah, it really, it's very defining. And stories carry.
Stories carry.
We all carry them. Is that
yeah.
We all carry them, and some even carry us. And I do hope, Be'ezrat Hashem, to do a audiobook. And I want my father to tell his parts, do his parts.
Wow. That's incredible.
I want to do that. So I'm saying.
And you read your parts and he reads his parts.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ask him? Did he say yes?
Yeah, he'll do it.
Well, now that we put it out there, I don't know. Yeah. He's gonna have his feet to the fire.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I didn't even ask for how my parents feel about the book, part 2.
You're right. I didn't even ask you that. I don't know why, because sometimes I do ask that question when I've done other book interviews, but for some reason I just felt in my bones that your parents...
They're very supportive. They love it.
Fully on board. Am I right about that?
Fully on board.
Yeah. I just felt it through the book. I don't know.
Yeah.
Even though I love how you speak about your mother. I love how you speak about your father. I think you posted something, maybe a family simcha or a family wedding right after I had read the book. And I'm like, I feel like I know the characters in this, like your present day life. Like I know the characters in this story. Like I see your things and I'm like, oh, I know all about them in the best way. Like, but their complexities too, like their real personalities. You do such a good job of sharing about your mother and her personality and her stuff and your father, and your grandparents. You really do.
My father was saying Kaddish. He was here. My parents were here for Shavuos, and I'm not Kaddish. He was in for Yisker, and a woman in my community who read the book, she's like, Dena, I know who he's saying Yisker for now. I know who you're saying Yisker for now. I was like, oh, that's so
But cool. Truly, you read the book, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I know your people. I feel like I know them. They're part of a little piece of part of me too now, which
Special.
which is the beautiful thing about sharing a piece of yourself in this way.
Yes.
So thank you for being here. Thank you for writing this book and putting it out in the world. I think it's going to make a huge impact and hopefully allow other people to really dig deep inside themselves and find out what their stories are.
Oh, exactly. That's what I want to hear.
Okay. What an episode. Anyhow, I don't even think I have to say anything after because it spoke for itself. And so we're going to go right into this week's prompt, which is all about religious anxiety. And I think it's a very interesting topic. It can go in a lot of different directions. I want to share that when I asked this question, it wasn't to find fault in religion. It wasn't to dump on religion. It wasn't to find excuses to not practicing. There's many discussions around that. For me, it's really just about acknowledging that we're human and sometimes we can feel anxious and sometimes we can manifest that in our relationship with Hashem and in our service. And if you notice that, how does that feel? And are you okay with that? Or did you change or do something about it? So do you find yourself practicing out of fear? Or do you find yourself practicing out of connection? Is it a work in progress? And I am really excited to share some of the experiences and voice notes that I got. And I think they're great. And I am so appreciative of people who choose to share their personal either thoughts or experiences. It means a lot. And then I get to share it with all of you. And then we create this gorgeous community. So here we go. Without further ado, the first voice note.
Great prompt about anxiety. As a Jewish person trying to, since October 7th, to improve my study and my practice, I was raised in a very Jewish, culturally Jewish home, and we did holidays, but definitely not what you would consider an observant family, even though my parents were raised by Orthodoxy in the modern. I just got so much joy out of doing Modani for the hostages, for loved ones in their merit, doing morning prayers, learning the bathroom prayer, learning not just the Shabbat prayers, I knew those, but like actually lighting Shabbat candles and trying to improve my Shabbat practice. And then, of course, Netilat Yadayim, buying the little two-sided water container to do that. And then I learned about Ruach Ra. And when I started to learn about that, all the joy was replaced by anxiety. Literally waking up in the middle of the night, suddenly I was super aware, did I accidentally touch my eyes or my mouth or my nose? So I ended up saying Modani before I got out of bed at 3 a.m. and doing Netilat Yadayim, and then going back to sleep. And then Modani again when I woke up. But it took all the joy because I had this connection with Hashem that was so beautiful. And then it became this punitive, really extremely legalistic experience. I'm slowly recovering my way back to the joyful relationship with Hashem. But learning about Ruach Ra was just like it would curse my whole day if I accidentally touched my eyes or scratched my inner ear or picked my nose in my sleep before hand washing. So anyway, thank you again for the prompt. And that's my experience.
This was a really incredible message. It was vulnerable, it was honest, and it was really exactly what I was curious about and talking about. And what she describes in this voice note is something that started off so beautiful, so pure, so spot on. and she got taught something or heard something that changed the perspective, and then it became a fearful experience. And first of all, amazing that she was able to identify that this was headed in the wrong direction and trying to heal from that and make choices to help, because obviously that is not sustainable to have to wake up in the middle of the night and do all these steps because of fear. And it also makes me think that we have to be so cognizant on how we talk about things and how we teach things, especially to children. This is something that I think about all the time. It's like, do we want our kids or the people that are learning from us to have a fearful relationship with Hashem or a loving and exciting one? And I think it really is important that we teach in that way. How we present our practice, how we present the reasoning behind the mitzvahs or why we do the mitzvahs is so important, because you can take the same thing and it can be something that's done out of joy and connection and love, and take the same mitzvah but come at it from a fearful, like, if you don't, like, bad energy and all these negative connotations. And yeah, could you do it that way? 100%. But what I feel is that it's often not sustainable, and it often leads to a lot of resentment and animosity, and it's not how it's supposed to be. So thank you so much for sharing that message. It's really resonant. Okay, next voice note.
Hi, I'm just leaving you a voice note about your question on Instagram. Do we do religious practices out of fear or something to that effect? And your question actually hit hard and made me so sad, because absolutely yes. I'm looking around at the community I'm in, and everybody either has some form of anxiety or OCD or is on the autistic spectrum, and it definitely looks like they're keeping things out of, because it calms their anxiety, because it's very ritualistic, because it helps them keep everything black and white, which helps their anxiety and OCD and autistic traits. I definitely feel that I moved so far away from where I was around 25 years ago. I still have the same friends, and they are stuck in the same exact spot that they were 25 years ago. They don't want to know the answers. They don't want to do any research. They want everything exactly the same. And I look at them and I'm like, why are you not asking questions? It's hard for me, because to me it looks like they're keeping religion out of fear, out of anxiety, and out of, again, being somewhere on the autistic spectrum. And they just don't want to know the answers. They don't want to know the truth. And I moved to this place where I don't want to keep religion or religious practices out of fear. I want to do it because I choose it and I love it. So it took many, many years to get here and lots of therapy, but I choose to go to shul now. I chose a different shul that is more aligned with my values. And I love keeping holidays. I love Shabbos. I love holidays now. And for me, keeping religious practices works much better when I choose it and when I love it, and not doing it out of fear or some anxiety or some ritualistic thing. I actually have so much to say on this topic, but you have an excellent question. It hits the nail on the head. So thank you for that.
I think more of us can relate to this question than you would think. Okay, I think she brings up such a fascinating perspective, because I was asking, okay, are there any religious practices that you do out of anxiety? And she brought up another point, which is really interesting, and I'm glad that she brought up, is that some people actually use religion to soothe some of the struggles that they have. So it's like a coping skill, because religion can provide order and control and structure. And people who might struggle with some of that might end up using religion as a kind of their coping skill. She talks about anxiety, OCD, spectrum, and I'm sure she's referring to people who are actually diagnosed with those things. I don't want to say that because it's very important not to use those terms out of context, but for what she's saying is a really interesting thought, because it could go the other way around. You could be using religion as your coping skill. But the other thing she's saying is that she was in an environment that really wasn't bringing out the best in her, that was kind of preying on that fear, or on people who weren't interested in going deeper or learning more, asking questions, and just doing it because that's what was told to them and not exploring it any further. And she got out. She found a community that works and that aligns and that allows her to come to Yiddishkeit from a place of love and from a place of desire and from a place of choice. And I think that's very, very cool. Okay, next voice note.
Hi, I love your podcast. I listen to all of them. They're amazing and they're so interesting. I'm a big podcast junkie and I really love yours. I've been like a little shy to do the voice note response, but trying it out. Let's see how it goes. So I think that a religious practice that was done, I guess, out of fear, and I'm just speaking for myself, but also I do a lot of work in shidduchim. For myself, I think was wearing stockings. I wore stockings for a bunch of years. Actually, from when I graduated high school, seminary, till basically I got engaged to my husband. I felt like I wasn't going to get the right type of guy that I wanted unless I was wearing stockings. But I don't know, if the halacha ever really spoke to me, and my family could care less about that. It was not our family standard at all. And then when I was dating my husband, hagiography, we were totally on par, but I was wearing stockings. He didn't even notice. And then he asked me, I think at one point, why do you wear stockings? Are you Chabad? And I'm not Chabad. And I said, no, that was the tznius standard that I thought was the expectation. And he's like, I don't really think halacha requires you to wear stockings. And then we discussed it more, and I realized that I don't need to wear stockings anymore. And I was really not doing it from necessarily me feeling like it was straight halacha, but more I felt like that was the expectation in shidduchim, and I see a lot. And I see a lot now, in general, working with people in shidduchim, that a lot of things that people do and say and behave are out of fear instead of maybe halachas that they hold near and dear.
Okay, so first of all, I love when people message me, even though they're shy or it's out of their comfort zone. I'm so honored. It makes me so happy. And thank you for doing that. Second of all, I love this personal reflection. And I'm not an expert on what's halacha and what's not halacha, but I think it is so important when we're teaching to also differentiate between halacha versus not halacha, versus opinion, versus hashkafa, versus custom, or what we think we should be doing. And I know this especially in regarding to taras mishpacha, family purity. A lot of times all the things get mixed up together, and then people think that when they're very overwhelmed and they can't do it all, and then they're like, forget it, I'll just do nothing, all or nothing. But if you actually learned what was the halachas and maybe start keeping just the halachas and then adding to it when you're ready, it could prevent a lot of burnout and a lot of forget it, I just drop it all. So I really appreciate that point, because I think that is something that could be done better and we could learn from. Next voice note.
What's coming up for me now? I'm not religious, as you know, and I haven't been religious for a long time, so I don't have any practices that I still do. I kind of let go of all practices. But something I really noticed recently, especially I've been traveling and even more separated from community, home environment and all that, I realized the internalized, am I doing it right? And it doesn't necessarily pertain to religious practices anymore, but it pertains to just, in general, the constant kind of internal, like, I'm not doing enough or I'm not doing it right. And for me, it's, intertwined with religion as well as my upbringing with my parents, with the constant, just some religious memories that are popping up of like, oh, you didn't daven long enough, or you didn't wash correctly, or, so like constantly anything that was done, I was like, oh no, you're not doing that right. And you need to go do that again or change that. And so I've realized for myself now that I just have a lot of that internalized. It reflects in other things in my life of like not doing, never doing things right, or I should be doing more. So that's what's coming up for me right now at the moment.
Okay, this message is from Mendy Labavik, and I appreciate you sending this message. And I actually happen to really relate to this. And I talk about this in therapy all the time. It's like, am I doing it right? And we have this fear of doing things right or correctly. I feel that in my parenting journey. Am I parenting right? Am I being a good enough mother? Am I being the best mother? Am I being in every single aspect of my life? And I think many people, they want to show up in the best way, or they're scared of messing up, or the narrative, or they were always told or picked on, like, oh, it wasn't good enough, right? The good enough thing is so hard. I'm not good enough. What I do is not good enough. Like, so many of us internalize that message, and I think that takes a lifetime of work and a lifetime of therapy to know that sometimes good enough is okay. Well, not sometimes, all the time. And our relationship with Hashem in our journey is, on the one hand, it's never good enough, right? Because if it was good enough, then we wouldn't need to be here. That's the whole point, that we're constantly growing and constantly evolving and learning and doing better. But I think as a parent, I really appreciate hearing this message, because I want to take more intention around how I speak to my children and make sure that they know that what they're doing is good enough, and how not to also nitpick on things so that they don't internalize that message. So thank you. And thank you, all of you, for sending heartfelt, vulnerable, personal stories. I can't wait for the next time. And I am sitting here in this tiny bathroom, sweating buckets. So I'm going to sign off. Of course, nothing goes smooth. I'm trying to do Riverside in Vienna, Austria. My phone didn't have enough memory, so I'm busy deleting stuff. And so it took a lot longer than expected. So see you next time.
Okay, so this podcast does not happen by itself. The magic takes a whole group of amazing people, and I want to tell you who those people are. So obviously, I'm your host, Chavie. Our producer and creative director is Eli Ben-Chion. He keeps me on my toes. He makes sure that I just keep growing and am on point and don't miss a beat. He's the best. Audio is edited and mixed by Reed Seeley. Also, unbelievable. He's so cool, calm, and collected. You kind of need that working with me. And the music, which is beautiful, is by Basia Schechter and Shaul Magid. And this is totally unexpected.